Video game collecting. I know that over my whole time of being a gamer, I've collected stuff over the years. But there's one particular game console I've collected for, and that is the PS2 is what I've collected for the most. It means a lot to me and probably was what solidified me becoming a gamer in itself. So I decided one day to finally get out of storage and put them into order, list them correctly, and finally play these games because I've always wanted to get around to playing them but just never have. So that's what I want to do finally. What's the point of collecting something if you're not going to play it? But not only that, 6th Gen just has such a wild west of gaming. Such interesting genres, companies coming up with different crazy ideas. It's definitely a really good moment of gaming for me. So I hope you guys are ready and want to join me on this crazy adventure that, simply put, is going to be the PlayStation 2 Collection Challenge. Now, everyone has their own rules for their challenge, so here are mine. The first rule being, every game is sacred. Now, when you ask everyone a question about the PS2 and say what their favourite game is, I'm sure everyone will come up with their own different answers. The RPGs, sports, racing, Grand Theft Autos. Everyone has their own favourite game, so I think every game deserves their own playtime. I stream my entire playthroughs on Twitch, so at the moment music licensed games with just music only will be not included, and the banned list games, because Also, if I own it, we always play the first game in a series before the second one, as long as I own it. And when it comes to difficulty levels, we'll go with what's intended, or what I think is default difficulty. So, if there's 3 options, easy, normal, hard, let's go for normal. Seems like the right pace of every game. Sport titles, we won't just be playing one round of sport. If it's got a season mode, we'll go season. If it's got a playoff mode, we'll go playoffs. And whatever the default difficulties or settings are done by the devs, once again, stick by that. Rule 2. What is considered beaten? Now, when we beat most games, you're going to get the credit roll, so obviously that's usually a good sign. But then I've been playing other games where there's multiple characters and multiple fighters, and beating a game with one character doesn't really make sense to me because of value for money. If you bought these games, I think you'd want to beat with every character, so we'll be doing that for those kind of games. Most of the time when we start sports season modes or playoffs, when we get to the final game, a victory screen, or you've won the cup is a thing that happens. So yeah, that's what we consider a beat for the sport titles as well. With compilations, beat every game. If there's the credits in each one, get to the end, or high score it on the arcade modes. Rule 3, real hardware, real media, no cheating. All my playthroughs are done on real hardware, so that's everything that gets captured into my RetroTink 2X. Luckily, my PlayStation 2 comes with a Matrix mod chip, so we're able to play every North American release as well, and some of the Japanese ones I feel like playing too. All at the same time with no cheats, no save states. We're doing this legitimately as best we can. And there are my rules. So I hope you're ready. Back in April 2022, I didn't realize just how much I was going to enjoy doing my own console challenge. And yeah, as I near game 100, there's still many games to beat. At the moment in my game collection, we're sitting at 2,000 games. And if you're interested, I type everything on a spreadsheet that you can look at. That'd be every game I've finished, times, dates started, for your enjoyment. But yeah, during this, there's been laughs. There's been tears. And there's just been stupid, goofy moments. So I hope you enjoy the adventure where we don't just collect every PS2 game, but beat them as well. So we're starting things off with Game 1, The Bouncer. Now, this was Squaresoft's first big jump into the PlayStation 2, and If you grew up with the PlayStation 1, you were probably impacted by one of their games, be it RPGs, kooky, other obscure oddities. But yeah, somewhere down the line, if you had a PlayStation 1, you probably got into one or many of their games that they produced. One person in particular being my good friend Jasix, who has been a long time stream friend of mine, and let him decide the first game. So it was decided that we'd check out The Bouncer. It's a game I've never played, and it was a great way, I thought, to definitely start off the challenge. So as we dived in, the three options were just new game, load game, extra game, and by the summary of extra game, it was carrying over characters from a save, so we just start up new game. As the game starts up, we are introduced to a FMV, classic Squaresoft, even back then with their FMV animations, just to really start pulling in the character. And we're introduced with various different people and characters that we'll be meeting throughout the course of the game. We are eventually welcomed into a bar called Fate down Dog Street, where Dominique walks in, who's one of the workers at the place, and we are then introduced to the three protagonists of the game. Those three characters being Ku, Volt, and early access Sora, aka Sion. But the legendary Tetsuya Nomura was a character designer for this game, so it comes as no surprise that inspiration from later projects by him would eventually come from other older projects. So once the gang have all come together, meeting up, catching up, and we get our brief introductions of them all, we are then struck with our drama of the game as some masked buffoons come in and decide to pick a fight. And this is where we're met with a character select screen. And instead of picking a character and playing as just them, you're freely able to pick between the trio of characters at very different points of the game. Now, like for initial playthrough reasons, I was going to play as all three characters anyway, but I just started from left to right, so we went with Sion. And also, hey, he got the not Sora appeal, so that was it. And as we got into the game, boom, it very much felt like Streets of Rage to me, like, and that was how it plays out pretty much. The HUD itself is pretty simple. You've got your character health in the top left, and in the top right is enemy health, and the dots represent just the number of enemies in the scene. As the fight continues, the green dots would go down, further to orange, red, and when they fade to black, basically defeated that enemy in the section. And that's how this plays out throughout the whole game. Clear a screen, move on, and get more cutscenes and more story along the way. After the initial scene has been completed, you get sent to the character upgrade screen and use your BP or bouncer points to upgrade initial stats or combo moves, special moves to mess around with further into the game. Basically, the RPG element of this game, if you wanted to consider it an RPG. You're only awarded BP if you defeat the enemy, though, so this is a problem when enemies get kill-stealed by the AI. So once the dust has been settled from the first combat, shock, Dominique did not get saved. In fact, the complete opposite happens. While our backs were turned, she has been kidnapped. And that's when the main plot of this game begins. That's right. We're on a quest to save the damsel in distress. Not much is known about the group until our good guy Volt lets us know that it's from a group called Mikado, which we were introduced to at the beginning of the game. And that is as much as we have to go on until our inside guy, Ku, seems to know more than anyone else. So he does a quick little phone call and lets us know that if we can grab a train in the next couple of minutes, we'll be able to go and check it out. So without any hesitation, our guy, Sion, dashes for the girl, and our crew have to obviously tag along. For the most part, the game plays out the same going forward. Cutscene, fight, cutscene, fight. There are some characters that get revealed along the way, though, but it's very much trickle thread and strung together. So as the game progresses at the early stage of the game, we're trying to get our way to the train. That's the first main aspect. And in between, you're fighting guards, progressing guards, fighting guards, and stuff like that. Once we do eventually board the train, we are met with Echidna, who is one of the antagonists of the game, and the first of many we will be fighting. And her task is obviously to prevent us to get to Dominique. And what better way to stop you than to fight more generic enemies? Of course, safety doesn't really matter when you're in the world of the bouncer, so we are literally going to be fighting on the train. As we climb up, we fight some more generic bad guys and just try and get to the front of the cart. It doesn't take long though, so after a few more fights, we encounter Echidna finally face to face. And she mustn't have the best of eyesights because it does take her a minute or two to realize that Volt is with us and they share some sort of chemistry. Needless to say, it doesn't really stop us from having to have a battle on our hands, as after a little brief chat, we've got to get down to the business and kick some more ass. So that's exactly what happens. Us versus Echidna. So we're introduced to our first true boss fight of the game against Echidna. And it's when obviously now we start to actually get our butts kicked a little bit, trying our best to take her down. Still, it makes the combat a bit more interesting now, rather than just beating up generic grunts and getting, steamrolling our way through the game. And this is when we encounter one of our first game overs. Now, game over in this game actually isn't too much of a big deal. Luckily, every time you do game over, you get sent back to the title screen, and you're able to load to the point where you saved last. And sure, yeah, it's a little bit annoying that you have to go through a couple of loading screens to get to back into the action. It sucks that there's not really a continue option. But this game does have something that was really rare actually back in the day. And this was a launched window title. So I'm surprised it's never been a thing throughout this generation. And that is the ability to skip cutscenes, which really makes this game, great if you want to have replay value actually. So once we do eventually kick some ass and knock Echidna down, we gather around and make her admit defeat. But as all famous antagonists would do, she swears revenge and slips off like a skillful. Well, I don't know. Would you jump off a train like that? Well, she does. Now, the bouncer is a very short arcade experience, so it doesn't take long for us to try and stop a train, unsuccessfully blow up a train, uh, get through more fights, steal a plane, and just, generally progressing through the game. Like I said, the story is interesting, but it's a short arcade experience, so it jumps in between a lot of things. While flying about in our newly acquired airship, we notice that Dominique is a little bit de-dressed, but knocked out somewhere. We obviously need to get there, but the driver bails. Volt decides, you know what, maybe I can fly planes, and then realizes that nope, he can't. So we casually crash yet another object, but we're bouncers, right? We're not pilots. It's not our fault. Conveniently, where we did crash, however, we are being surprised attacked by a old face, the kidnapper that decided to sweep away Dominique from us. The guy's definitely hungry for a fight, though, so we better just do what we do best and bounce. Or, at least the second best thing, kick his ass. We better be careful though, because obviously he's rocking those esport glasses, so we know that he means business. But then again, once we do fight him, he's not really too much of a challenge. Just keep kicking, punching him and his goons. Another one bites the dust, and more story commences. Now, when I say story commences again, I really mean it. About an hour into the game, the lore dump of the century happens in this. We are met with a mysterious piano playing woman who has the ability to, well, casually turn into a panther, but that's all we know about her. We are met with two other characters, Wong and Duragan, or Duragan Mikado. We learn that he is like the CEO of the company. And then we are also even learned that Wong was the master of Sion. Wong suddenly gets one shot punched by Duragan and is fatally wounded by his former CEO master. And then Sion tries to come into the scene and encounter his master, where his master slowly dies, classic Mufasa style, and says he must be stopped.
Must do it.
And while you're trying to slowly take all this in, not only that, we are given one extra slice of plot, which is that Duragan Mikado sister is none other than Dominique. Yep, it's all here, folks.
You take me for a fool?
But finally, after all said is done and plot has been slapped in our faces really hard, it comes down to the brass tacks of the game once again, and we are taking on Draga on a 3-on-1 fight. Of course, he has to even things up by cracking the whip. Now, during this fight, you're not only actually fighting Druaga, but also the mysterious Panther is also involved in the fight. Though the Panther didn't really do much while I was combating. Usually, it's dealing with the other AI fighters. So yeah, one-on-one Druaga for a little while. Eventually, get him down to a small amount of HP. Definitely a tough fight though. He's got good combos to keep you on your toes. But yeah, after getting punched around a bit, deal the final blow, and we teach him a lesson. Now, obviously, Druaga gets a little bit salty because he didn't really expect too much of a good fight on his hands. But then he does his one-trick pony move, the one punch in the gut special that sadly Wong failed to. Still, after he's downed, we are then tricked once again by him with a fantastic Mr. Burns special, the old trap hole in the floor. And we go falling down while we are left without Dominique. Now, you can't have a lore dump without a nice flashback scene, and that's what we're treated to after that combat. We see two children, one looking desperately to get his sister help. And as we piece it all together, we've realized that this is Druaga and Dominique. Druaga is trying his best to go to this one hospital, which is a huge building. And for some reason, there's only one doctor available to help. So when he begs for help from the doctors and the people inside, they can't seem to help because there's only the one doctor, and they are sent back on the street. And as the young Mikado desperately is walking about with his sister, we are then encountered with another mysterious gentleman who we can obviously piece together being the CEO of the Mikado group. And as a lucky twist of fate, not only does his sister get saved, but he's offered to be adopted by the CEO of the Mikado group as long as he becomes a strong, independent man and defends himself, which he accepts. And as time goes on, the father passes away and Jiraga becomes the CEO of the Mikado group. Lucky guy. It's at this point, though, something really cool happens where you finally get a branching storyline taking out, where whatever character you pick, you play a little string of events involving just them and them alone. I don't know what happens in co-op mode, because I know this happens when these sections happens, but yeah, it's a nice, interesting touch. For Sion, it plays out mostly the same, just fighting a load of enemies, string it together, but his branching storyline finishes off on an encounter against the mysterious panther creature that we fought before, with the group boss fight against Druaga, but this time it's a one-on-one fight against a panther instead. So that is Sion's branching line. Volt very much the same. He does a load of multiple enemy encounters. He has a little cutscene at the end of his where he works out the CEO's assassin being Echidna. Since those two seem to have some sort of chemistry, it makes sense that Echidna has some references involving his branching storyline. But Ku gets this really awesome special treatment section when he goes through his branching storyline. You get this weird kind of secret espionage mini game where you have to copy and match other people's poses and postures. When you first look at it, it's a bit confusing, but man, as you get through, it gets so fun. I mean, it comes across as a bit of a tonal shift to some, but I love these kind of moments in games where it's just like a goofy, laid back kind of crazy mix up of things. And especially like one of the last few encounters, I think it's a way to throw off the player or something. It's a really weird moment where the guard just does these quick inputs like bam, 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 and I was just like, what am I meant to do here? And I just went for like one input, and I think it just seems to follow up with anything. But yeah, something like that was just a great little distraction from an otherwise fun game. So yeah, it's a really nice touch, the three character branching off at one point, but as everything entwines, it has to, wrap up again. So here it is. If you play as Sion, which is my first default play, you start the cutscene walking into this room, getting encountered by the kidnapper at the very beginning of the game again, where Dominique has been moved to this room now. But as it plays out, we are encountered with Volt, who obviously saves Sion getting his grapple neck locked from the ninja guy. Once again, I don't know how this would play out in co-op. It'd be interesting maybe to go back and have a look one of these days. But yeah, I don't know exactly what would happen if you just play it as if player one gets all the cutscenes or what. But this was what a surprise to me when I saw that Ku was wearing the enemy armor as well. Obviously, I didn't learn about that till the third playthrough since I saved him for last. But yeah, I thought it's a really nice way of getting the characters back together again. Yeah, the good old crazy guy is back again for another rematch, and this time he's gonna ditch those gamer glasses because they clearly don't work, overpriced and ridiculous, and he's just gonna go absolutely insane on our asses this time. The fight in particular took me a couple of tries. As we get further into the game, the encounters get a little bit more frustrating. The enemies seem to target me more. I have to watch myself defend more and everything. Also, they seem to be able to juggle you on the floor, and you can't do the same in return, which was a shame when I was trying to do the leg sweep move here. But eventually, well, I say I kill him, I get kill stealed, and we defeat him. Once it's all said and done, Sion finally gets the girl, or at least encounters Dominique finally again, where a lovely little romantic scene unfolds where, cliche as hell, she wakes up, sees Sion, they embrace each other. The classic old Disney-esque, movie-esque boy meets girl embrace situation.
Always getting me in trouble. You had me worried.
And as the sweet scene unfolds and finishes, we are introduced to another scenario where basically it's not really branching, but we're going to be picking one character for the next section, basically, while the other two form a distraction. So yeah, once again, just going through my Sion playthrough, I selected Sion, but the same thing plays out with all three characters here. I think there's a slight change in the cutscene at the end with what happens with Dominique, but yeah, apart from that, this next section plays the same. But this next section of like scenes, or actually one scene really took me a couple of tries here, because before then, this game, you always fought 5 or 6 enemies on a scene and then it ended on like, a results screen and leveling up. But this section, you have to go through like 5 or 6 multiple scenes with the same life bar while protecting Dominique and getting to the end. So yeah, this one is a bit more of a challenge, definitely. I'd just say it's probably the hardest part of the game, actually. So yeah, you'll be constantly battling these robots where they have really weird attack animations anyway, and you feel like there's no iframes on them or anything half the time. But yeah, Dominique is also a bit of a problem here, as she just, look, stay right there. She's constantly getting into problems, so you got to kind of kite around the enemies, make sure she doesn't get attacked by the enemies. Yeah, classic escort stuff, but definitely a challenge in itself, this section. But once you get through it, you probably will be alright with it. Once the robot gauntlet has finally been achieved, this is where you get a scene involving the person you've picked to escort Dominique through the previous sections. Out of the 3 characters you do eventually get in this cutscene, Sion and Dominique definitely have the best chemistry for this section. She starts opening up more to Sion, saying how she ran away from the Mikado group thanks to his master's help. and she only ever really opened up when being around him. And it's all kind of a very feelsy, very cutesy moment, and you can feel the affection between both of them here. Now, after a lovely, peaceful elevator journey, you'd think that we'd be able to get out of here scot-free without any more issues. Well, forget all about that, because as we're about to leave the bunker, we are introduced to yet another adversary. And here he is. Some freaky ass looking robot guy, pretty much. As much as Sion says Dominique to get out of the way, she's instantly grabbed by the guy. And lo and behold, we are in another situation where she's got kidnapped again. She must be related to Princess Peach or something. But she is desperately trying to break free. Well, I say desperately. She is instantly knocked out with the vice grip of this robot guy. And we are once again in a situation where we need to save her ass. Of course, a one-on-one fight against a robot wouldn't be fair, so luckily, our other two bouncers are here. That's right, Volt and Ku are here to save the day, or at least get our backs while we take on this new opponent. Now, from his cutscene, he looked really intimidating, but this fight wasn't actually that big of a deal. He has some sweeping attacks and some interesting AoE moves, but just took my time, blocked his attacks, and when his openings were there, went in for the kill. And he went down without even really retrying this one. So all that's left now is to go and save the girl. So that's exactly what we do next. We run back to her, but oh no, there's more now. So you're thinking to yourself, oh great, multiple boss fight, multiple characters. This is going to be rough. But suddenly, the biggest plot twist ever happens. That's right. Dominique does a scream to the heavens, and it is revealed that she is a robot. That's right, it's revealed that Dominique is actually an android that was created once the younger Dominique passed away through a terminal illness, and Joaga Mikado, once he becomes the CEO of the company, decides to recreate his sister in android form. But what is really impressive about our lovely Dominique android is she really knows how to kick some ass, and it's surprising that she didn't use these skills beforehand, but she goes Ultra Instincts mode and absolutely decimates the competition. God damn. But with all that energy output, it does take a lot out of her, and as much as she shows off her powers, they get taken away again as she completely overheats and faints. And sadly, while the gang are idle and just staring at what's happened, once again, our good old ninja buddy turns up for a third freaking time and kidnaps Dominique again. Yep, you can't ride it, can you? It just happens constantly, constantly. So off they go once again to have to save her. But before that, our poor guy Sion is pretty shot to bits over the revelation that the Dominique that he knows is an android. But hey, life goes on. And after a good old pep talk from our guy called Volt, we go on to try and save her. As we wrap up things with this game, we're going to be starting to encountering old friends. Our first final encounter is with Echidna, who doesn't want us to get to the airship where we need to obviously rescue Dominique. And after a little chit-chat between Volt and particularly Echidna, it's time to kick her ass one final time. Her fight in particular is a tough one. She has the extra enemies to help her out. So just take your time. Once again, her break dance moves and everything like that really can be a bit of a problem. But yeah, I just learned to be patient later on in the game. It's just block and then take your moments, and eventually, once you get the right chance, just go for the kill. And that's what we do to take out Echidna one final time. So while Echidna's licking her wounds, we discover that the Gallios, our chance to get to Dominique, slips away as it's been prepared for launch while we've been combating Echidna this whole time. So, yep, there goes our chances, supposedly. But we're the bouncers, right? And with Volt, our designated pilot, we commandeer an air vessel to catch up to the Gallios and finally, hopefully, save Dominique after all this time. Of course, our good old crazy ass ninja, the king of kidnapping, is back for one final encounter as we try our best to get to Dominique. He's not holding anything back, supposedly, though. He's going all out. Pretty much insane as he is. This scene kind of confused me the first time on my initial playthrough, though, because you are told to pick a pilot. So I was like, what is this for? As we were doing my Sion playthrough, I went with Sion to begin with, where he takes control of the vessel. And I thought, oh, is there going to be like some sort of flying minigame or something? But it's really not meant for that. It's just literally for plot reasons. And you're then deciding to choose a fighter for the actual boss fight. So yeah, to begin with, I was a little bit confused here. And, well, I lost the first fight, so it didn't play out very well. Obviously, when I have the right knowledge about how this actually unfolds, I then go in with Sion, take my time, and finally get my revenge on this guy that has just been basically padding out the whole entire game, pretty much. And just for that bittersweet victory, as he's falling down, we thinking, oh, will he ever come back again? A lovely, beautiful scene occurs where he is pretty much vaporized from our eyes. So thanks for that. He really was a thorn in our side. Meanwhile, while this has been going on, we find that Dominique has been hooked up to some sort of weird device, and Duragan has decided to seek his first bit of revenge against the world by blowing up that hospital that must have killed his real sister. The one place that only had one doctor for some reason. But yeah. Out comes the Omega vaporized beam to shoot down on the Earth and destroy that one hospital for his true act of evil revenge. Yeah. I bet that really showed them. But yeah, that is his first initial plan of evil. And as we are nearing the finale of the game, we are encountered with the mysterious Panther. One final time, it seems that we're not going to be able to get anywhere near Dominique until we get past this Panther. And once we do successfully win this fight, which isn't too bad actually, we are greeted with a very feelsy scene as long as you pick Sion actually. This scene doesn't actually occur with the other two characters, I don't think. But basically, it's slowly revealed that this person is called Chaldea, and she shares a lot of past with Sion actually. Her death is actually staged so she can be used for secret genetic research as they work on the android version of Dominique to try and understand or make basically her feel as human as she can. And Chaldea accepts this fate. She even confesses her deep fondness for Drogon near the end, but it seems he's not really that well inclined as he spears her through the goddamn chest like a sick ass mofo. And yeah, that's basically it. She dies in this sudden scene, and clearly Sion would be really pissed off from this, and it's time to seek true revenge from this twisted son of a bitch. So after those really intense scenes for Sion, we casually walk into the final scenes of the game, where Drogon is just on his computer, spouting the classic villain monologue about how he's going to control the world and make people enjoy, the wrath of this death beam satellite that he has created. But by the power of anime, Sion calls out to Dominique, who is dormant but refuses to let the beam go online. And obviously, Draga is not in the mood for this and deals with our shenanigans. Now, Draga is no easy pushover. Yeah, he's got the AoEs going on for him, and he really does do the damage to you as well. So you've really got to be on your toes during this, and it's not the easiest of fights by any means. And of course, it wouldn't be a Squaresoft game if it wasn't for two-phase boss fights, and this game is of no exception. But once we do deal with Draga's first life bar, he decides that's not all he's got as he whips off that lovely jacket and busts out the awesome dungarees to give us a second round in ass kicking.
The jacket's off.
So you gotta be on your toes during this boss fight actually, because your health carries over in the second fight. So it is quite a test on skill and patience. Once you get the hang of it and hopefully the right events happen, you eventually get a situation where you can lay the final blow on the guy and achieve your full victory. But with that final blow, Dorogan hits to the floor, and obviously Sion does a very corny title drop as a quip to seal the deal. But here's the interesting thing. Once you beat the game with 3 characters, there is actually a secret true final boss. Yeah. This only happens once you've beat a run with every character, I believe. But once it has happened, Draga sets up again for a 3rd time. Yeah, this is actually a 3-phase boss fight for a true ending if you want to go for it. It's what I like to do. I love looking for true endings in my challenge runs. That's definitely one of the reasons why I love doing stuff like this. So that's what happens. He gets up for a 3rd time, and just like a certain Sephiroth, he really wants people to know that he's got that buff bod. So off come the dungarees, and a badass kind of dragon tattoo on his back. He's going full out, and this time he means business. So yeah, it's a 3-phase boss fight to keep you on your toes. So you got to keep the health bars up. Hopefully the right RNG and the AI help enough. But get the right situation and the right circumstances, and eventually we knock him out. So that's it. It all starts wrapping up here. We finally get Dominique to wake up from her stasis state. She obviously is very confused, worried, and has had weird dreams going on, imagining the world being destroyed and whatnot. Obviously, from the circumstances that probably would have happened if we did not prevent the beam from activating. But yeah, all well is good, and things are starting to get happy again. Dominique does warn us, though, that it is heading into the satellite, the ship. But conveniently, also, she knows that the ship splits into 2 at the rear. So obviously, we make our way down to the back of the ship as it splits apart and save ourselves from basically becoming a sonic boom into the satellite. But hey, look, the satellite gets destroyed at the same time, so win-win, right? And as the game comes to a close, you're treated to a final cutscene depending on what character you had. Sion has his heart-to-heart, one-on-one final moments with Dominique, who has lost her memories of being an android. And Sion says he'll tell her one day when the time is right. Obviously, she can't age, so that's going to be an issue. Then you've got Volt's ending, who actually encounters Echidna again. So they also get a one-on-one final conversation about her wanting to become a bouncer, and she has her real name gets revealed as well by him. I don't know how important that is, but yeah, there you go. That's a nice, cool moment between them two as well.
Don't call me by that name. My name's Echidna.
Ko, though, is once again in the unique category where his ending involves a few more hidden extras, as to say, really. Basically, as he goes away from the gang, he's told to do his bouncer job, and we find out that he's been watching over Dominique the whole time and dealing with the satellites. Obviously, he can change assignments now, but he wants to stick around, obviously, because he's probably gained, bromance towards the bouncer crew and Dominique, and wants to just hang around and stick to this job more than a different assignment. So while Ku's doing his final shift outside, he gets another phone call from the person again, asking to meet up in Central Plaza, actually, this time around. So without much hesitation, he goes and follows suit. Just like the other 2 characters, when Ku does arrive on the scene, he is greeted to also a mysterious woman, probably another love interest, Leon, as he's mentioned her name briefly, but it doesn't take long for her to show some fists. Yep, that's right. Ku actually has a final fight in his storyline where he has to take on Leanne. Pretty cool, huh? So yeah, luckily she doesn't put up too much of a fight, and we're able to quite easily knock her out at our first attempt, and we are given the final of the game, basically. as Ku tries to desperately do a little bit of flirtatious conversation between her. She basically just says, stick to your assignment and whatnot. And a nice classic cheesy wink from him at the end to signify our first game beat. And that's it. That's the bouncer. All 3 characters with true ending. A really enjoyable experience, actually. So yeah, I'm one that doesn't really give reviews or scores for a game. It's not really what I do. I've been told, please rate these games as you play them. As a collector, I can say that this definitely is value for money. I'll say that. It's an enjoyable experience if you like the good old arcade style Streets of Rage. I had a lot of fun with it, especially going for the true ending here. There are some little extra things as well if you're that way inclined after you've beaten the game. With the characters that you beat or unlock, more to say, you can play and use them in a survival mode where you fight waves of enemies. I was missing one character, and after completing the game and looking into it, it's Master Wong. There's a very specific thing you need to do involving like picking a character in certain scenes, which was pretty much impossible to know off the get-go. But yeah, doing everything else, I unlocked every character, which you get to play as freely. Nice little mode. I messed around with it once, and that was really it, though. I had fun with it. Definitely. And that's it. First game complete. As you noticed, I use timers on all my runs, and going forward, I like doing that format, especially because some of these games don't actually have how long to beat times. So there's a nice little average play time. It's a little bit over the place because obviously interacting and streaming, it doesn't mean definite gameplay, but yeah, there you go. I always wanted to get around to eventually doing unique content for YouTube so you guys can enjoy something a bit different. So yeah, I hope you don't mind my average video editing skills. But yeah, I hope you guys really enjoyed that video. Thank you so much for hanging around. And yeah, I also just wanted to give a few shout outs and thank yous at the end of this video as well. I'm going to be doing that. I think people deserve shout outs, and this is going to be a couple for the first one. So yeah, these guys definitely deserve as much love and attention. I'm sure if you love Challenger content anyway, Thab the Beast's N64 Challenge, thanks to his content and his YouTube series and Twitch streams, yeah, this dude's awesome. Thanks, dude, for even getting me into console challenging. I'd also like to show some love to the Twitch Challengers stream team. If you love console challenges, there's a load of us on there. Loads of awesome people. You think of a console, someone's probably running it. We're awesome people, awesome, likely-minded individuals. Come check us out for all great different Challenger content. And finally, a shout out to the friendliest guy on YouTube I've ever met, the original PS2 challenge runner, Psych Plays PS2. If you love this kind of content, he's been doing it for longer than me, up to 350 games. Please check all these guys out. They're awesome and mean a lot to me as I've been going through my challenge runs. And finally, thank you for anyone that made it to the end of this video. It means a lot, just people that I've met through the communities of challenge runners, the people that want to watch and get involved in the content. You're all awesome in your own way, just watching and just coming along to streams. Hey, and I hope this unique YouTube content for you guys that only want to watch offline content, enjoy it as well. There are awesome people out there that I can't wait to find, and new console challenge runners I'm sure that will be popping around every so often. I have a Discord server if you want to join the Discord. There's no pressure there. It's got our little mini community. You can just chat to us and just enjoy stuff. Share your collection if you're a collector with us. We love all that. But yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. And I mean, this video content stuff is hard to make, but I'm getting the feel of it, and hopefully you guys on YouTube get some lovely unique content yourself rather than just the Let's Plays. Peace out, everybody, and I hope you all enjoy the PS2 Collection Challenge.